No matter where you are, what's happening to you, what kind of circumstances surround your life, no matter what thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations are unfolding through your consciousness, you still and forever remain the master of your life and the creator of your destiny. Your decision, your choice, your will absolutely trumps at anything and everything that could be happening in and of this world. In this conversation today, I want to zoom in onto a very specific facet of this, the facet of how do we consciously shape our perception. When we see a world of perfection out there, we come into full and complete alignment with spiritual truth, spiritual law, the law of one, the law of love, the awareness of spiritual truth, which is oneness. So how do we make the journey from a experience where we see tragedy, we see things going in a way that we feel are wrong, we see our desires thwarted, obstacles in our way, to an experience where, in a very sincere, grounded, authentic, and natural way, we behold life and we see that life is perfection, each and every moment, each and every situation. Can you imagine what a day lived like this would do for you? Can you imagine the impact that it would have on the quality of your relationships? So I want to share with you a personal story. Me and my wife have had so many incredible opportunities to practice forgiveness, to practice shifting our perception. Because when you live in an authentic spiritual relationship, the opportunities for evolution and awakening are abounding in every day. So I want to share with you a particular moment where I I was in a particular state of being where I felt overwhelmed. There was a lot of work-related concerns, trying to decide where we were going to move, where we were going to travel to. And I found my wife in a moment where she seemed to have said something to me and given me a certain look and a certain tone that I interpreted as her judging me, rejecting me, um, somehow trying to shame me. This was my perception. And I walked away from that experience without really saying anything, feeling, of course, triggered. But without saying anything, I walked away, continued on with my day, planning and making decisions and taking thought from the premise that I was being unsupported, that I was being judged, etc. So as this was unfolding, and my day went on, and I even felt like, okay, I want to leave this house. I want to go. I want to work somewhere else. I need a change of energy. When I actually brought this moment up to her, when I actually had the opportunity to reveal to her what was happening in me and to find out what was happening for her, I realized from just basic listening that she was upset with somebody else. She just got off the phone with somebody. And that situation and conversation really left her feeling very triggered, very down. And her conversation with me had absolutely nothing to do with judging me, with rejecting me, with trying to shame me, or anything at all in that context in which I interpreted it. And I'm sure many of you have had such an experience where in our perception, it feels so real, so solid, so concrete that there is something wrong. Whereas in fact, if we take a conscious, authentic, vulnerable look, we realize or can realize and can uncover that that situation had nothing to do with us. So this is the power of perception, the power of perception to either completely contract our reality into degrees of suffering that have certainly a limitation, but a limitation that is deep and painful before we actually come to the moment of awakening, right? It's been said by spiritual teachers throughout time that heaven and hell are a quarter of an inch apart. Perhaps this is a Zen saying. So what does this mean? It means that as we move deeply into the darkness, we come to a point where we realize that it can't be this way. It just cannot be this way. There must be another way, right? This very thought was the thought that gave birth to A Course in Miracles. This very thought was the thought that Eckhart Tolle was contemplating on the bench as he was sitting and reflecting and saying, I can't live with myself anymore. That's the end of the line. That's where the ego, that's as far as it can lean into suffering. Why? Because suffering is illusory. The perception that there is something wrong in life is illusory. And we can absolutely and verifiably find this out by beginning to see and witness the desires, the judgments, the attachments of this character, this false self that we've identified ourselves with. As we begin to see what that programming is actually doing, as we begin to see how it's conditioning the perceptual apparatus of our mind and body to focus in to the exclusion of all else on the things that seem to prove to us that suffering is the only choice, that we are somehow limited, cut off, victimized by life itself. So what is the actual bridge between the perception of separation, that illusion of separation that completely wraps itself seemingly around our eyes and face and every sensory organ to show us that that's reality, and that leap, we may even say quantum leap, into the awareness of perfect oneness? What does perfect oneness mean? It means that it is impossible for there to be conflict. If there cannot be conflict, how can there be something wrong in our lives? How could we perceive something other than perfection? Only through the lens of illusion. And so let's take the journey now. The journey of realization that only perfection exists, and that is why we can see only perfection. So the very first step, or the very first layer to it, perhaps even the first technique that I want to invite you to apply, is to begin to see that as you behold life, as you explore the events that are unfolding in your day from this more removed awareness, where you're not just reacting and taking everything to be absolutely real, every thought, every feeling. If you stop giving authority to what you are perceiving and instead just witness it for a moment, you can begin to see that everything that ever has unfolded in your life has brought you to an ever greater degree of awareness, an ever greater degree of consciousness. And if you really, really pay attention, you will notice that it has brought you to a greater degree of love. Even those moments that have caused you to deeply shut down, to build up walls, to lock the doors, and to protect yourself, because, of course, life has presented itself in such a way that it appeared that you got hurt by something outside and you had to protect yourself. Even that is a stepping stone to the ultimate realization of our invulnerability, your invulnerability. It is so because if you look back, you're going to see that the puzzle pieces are actually all fitting together. You look back and you see, wow, yes, it's because I had that experience that I finally got to the realization that I could not do that anymore. I had to stop. Or I came to the realization that I needed to make the choice. So whatever that was, every time when we look back, we see the thread of perfection, that even if in that moment we thought it was off, we realize looking back that it was on. It was on the whole time. But then whenever we look to the future again, whenever we begin to assess whether or not we are going to be able to get through a particular experience, to achieve whatever we're seeking, to embody the state of consciousness that we desire, we begin to see this sense of doubt, right? We begin to feel like we need to manipulate our way to it, or we need to control, or we need to defend, or whatever that is. All of that is the illusory perception of imperfection. The core underlying truth of life is that it is absolutely rigged in our favor. Each and every one of us, it is rigged in our favor in such a magnificent way that it is actually also of synergistic benefit to each and every other being in existence. This is the perfection of life. And what it reveals to us is that everything is on the way. There's not one thing that you have ever experienced that was not on the way to your ultimate spiritual awakening. And by spiritual awakening, we are talking about peace, love, joy, bliss, prosperity, abundance as our true and natural state, regardless of circumstances or conditions. Why? Right? Why? Think about when you're watching a movie, right? There are various conditions and circumstances unfolding in that movie. You feel through them. You're witnessing them unfold. And yet, none of them leave a single scratch on you. None of them hurt you or detract from you in any way. And in the very same way, we have this experience of life unfolding, presenting itself to us, taking us through a journey of emotion and thought and meaning and symbolism. And yet, at the core of it, we're just witnessing. In this one instant, everything is passing through this one instant again and again and again and continuously, and we call that time. But we are witnessing the unfolding of this incredible presentation of color and sound and shape and texture. And so what we are seeing here is that stream of consciousness, that wish-fulfilling gem that they talk about in the highest form of Buddhism, which is Dzogchen. Whatever this is, this dream, this illusion, this Maya, this wish-fulfilling gem, this is continuously shaping itself in such a way as to bring you forever and only closer into the experience of your awakening. This is the inevitable direction of our life. So if we can begin to merge more and more with this awareness that, wow, no matter what happens, no matter where it happens, no matter to whom it happens or how, each and everything that ever unfolds is on the way to ever greater glory. From glory to greater glory, right? World without end. This is our now experience. Again, to practically embody it, to embrace it, the only thing that we're being asked of is to notice how each and everything that you ever experienced has been on the way to your expansion, to your awakening, to your enlightenment. Because isn't this why we're here? If you were watching this video to this degree, to this depth, then absolutely what you are aware of is that your purpose for being here is your ultimate freedom, freedom from suffering and freedom to be exactly as you are, which is love, joy, peace, fulfillment, prosperity, every divine and perfect quality that has ever been created by the infinite creator is already yours and already here. So as we begin to embrace life as being on the way to our enlightenment, each and every moment, You can literally wake up in the day and say, okay, wow, each and everything that will unfold for me today is going to be on the way to my enlightenment, on the way to my ultimate freedom and liberation. Yes, please come, whatever it may be, conflict, fear, doubt, indecision, whatever it is, I know that all of this is purification. I know that any moment that I feel any degree of suffering, it is the last moment that I'm feeling that degree of suffering, that particular moment, because now I see it as a release. Now I see it as something that is bringing me ever closer to my complete and perfect knowledge of oneness, of God, of eternal life, of all of that which is so intimately desired beyond any material desires. And so the invitation here is that as you hear your your narrative, this matrix narrative, right, that runs through us as the voice of the separate self, as this unfolds with various judgments, concerns, desires, fears, uh, the sense of lack, sense of conflict, you simply see all of that and say, oh yeah. But that's, even if that were to happen, that would also be on the way. Even if this were to unfold, that is still a stepping stone bringing me ever closer to that perfection. So whatever is that personal desire, it starts to take more and more and more of a back seat. It starts to become more and more kind of like a child that you may hear and say, well, yes, I do hear you and I do love you, but you are not in the driver's seat. And for now, as long as you're a child and I'm an adult, let me take care of this and let me lead us in the best and safest direction that I know how, right? So you begin to relate that way to that separate self voice. And what you're going to notice is that over time, it begins to just surrender to you more and more and more so. It doesn't mean that it's not going to throw a fit every now and again. It doesn't mean that it's not going to try to trick you. Absolutely it will, and it is incredibly cunning at that. But no matter what happens, remain resolute in your decision that everything is on your way. No matter what happens, it leads to ever greater satisfaction for you. And as you do so, what begins to unfold is that your perception, which used to operate from the premise of seeking safety, seeking enlightenment, seeking more love, that seeking and not finding begins to melt away. And you begin to notice that even as this arises, as this wave and impulse in consciousness, you are already there. You realize that even the energy of seeking itself is illusory, that there's nothing missing, that whatever would be at the end of that search would only be the peace, love, and joy, and prosperity, and wholeness that you already are, already and always. So this is the premise that we can begin to live from, that we can begin to see from, speak from, meditate in, have conversations and dialogues in the context of. And as we do so, our life naturally, authentically, and effortlessly transforms, aligns, reveals this perfection, such that when we look out at the world, when we see the circumstances of our lives, when we hear thoughts within us, we now take all of that very differently. We don't anymore take it personally, running it through the script of that separate self, and then coming out with certain judgments, desires, resistances, but instead we begin to see, wow, each and every day is on the way. Each and everything. There is nowhere I can fall that I won't be lifted up. That it won't teach me a further lesson, a further strengthening, a further clarification, a further illumination than where I've been just a moment prior. Because remember, you are looking from perfection already and always. And this brings us to that second technique or perspective that I wanted to bring to you. What is the truth? If you are here and I imagine that this is not the first time that you are exploring this question of spiritual awakening and enlightenment. So you know quite deeply, and probably more so than most people on the planet, what is the truth? Where are we really? And who are we really? Is it that we're just these bodies on a little spinning planet somewhere out in space and in this universe? And is that true? If it's true, it's only as true as the universes in your dreams, as the worlds and planets and people that you dream about at night. And while we're there, they're absolutely real. And when we're gone, they're absolutely gone. So what is the real? Nisargadatta Maharaj would be talking about it as the real is what is always and already true. Ramana Maharshi, the same thing. The real is the absolute. It is the changeless. So how can all of these comings and goings ever be real? What is real is the kingdom of heaven. What is real is kingdom consciousness, to be conscious of the eternal, of the changeless, right? In A Course in Miracles, we're brought to the realization that actually we are already and always in heaven, in the kingdom consciousness. In truth, we are ideas in the mind of God. Ideas in the mind of God. So if there is no conflict in the mind of God, how can there be conflict where I am? If there is no imperfection in the mind of God, how can there be any imperfection where I am? When you can begin to open yourself to this realization, so you might say, yeah, but I only know that intellectually. Not. If you want to live it, stand in it, occupy that state. I am already now in the kingdom of God. There is no conflict in the kingdom of God, therefore it cannot be here. There is no lack in the kingdom of God, therefore there can be no lack here. Is there fear in God's kingdom? In the mind of God, is there fear? If there isn't, how can there be fear here? There can be a false fear. There can be an illusion of fear, an illusion of lack, an illusion of conflict, an illusion of separation. Just like in movies, right? There's an illusion of death. There's an illusion of life, illusion of birth, illusion of circumstances. But they're not real. They're not happening to anybody. They are truly a play for you to witness. And then you witness it. There it is. And nobody gets hurt. None of those things become real just because there's a movie about it, right? Same thing here. Just because there is a dream of separation doesn't make it real. Just because there is an appearance of conflict, just because there is seeming fear, seeming lack, doesn't make them real. And if they don't exist in God's mind, in the mind of the infinite creator, in the mind of perfection itself, how can they be real here? And so you can use this line of questioning whenever you come under the spell, the illusion, the hypnotic spell of lack, fear, doubt, anger, separation in whatever form it takes. You simply question it. If you see it, you say, okay, I am seeing lack here. I am seeing a lack of love, lack of respect, lack of abundance, whatever it is. But, let me remember the truth about this. But if I'm in the mind of God, which I am, there is nowhere that I can be that I am not within God, right? Because God is infinite. For you to be outside of God would deny God's infinite nature, God's infinite being. So If where I am is within God, then it must be that this is an illusion, because there is no separation in God. There's no conflict. There's no lack. There's no fear. There's no anger. If God did not create it, how can it be real? It cannot be real. It can be an appearance. It can seemingly be real. It can be an illusion of reality, but it cannot be real. And as you begin to question it this way, what you are doing is you are interrupting that stream of consciousness, the stream of consciousness which is propelling you and taking you on this journey of separation. This is just the hypnotic spell pulling you along, and you are interrupting the stream. Pattern interrupt, pattern interrupt, pattern interrupt by questioning it. And when you question it, you'll see that it reveals like, oh, well, well, yeah, I guess so, you know? Because what can an illusion say when you question its reality? It can say, no, I am real, but you know the real. And so this entire experience becomes one in which layers and layers of separation, of illusion, of doubt, of fear are being shed again and again and again. And more and more and more light comes in. More and more confidence, clarity, discernment comes in. And you begin to see, wow, all of it is on the way. There's nothing that can stop me, because what I am is this extension of peace, love, and joy itself. What do I need? Oh, yeah, I need nothing. I have no needs. I have no needs because I'm already love, peace, joy, fulfillment, abundance. And instead of it just being an intellectual rehearsal, which is perfect place to start anyway, it becomes a living, breathing reality, more and more so, more and more so. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with gradually releasing yourself of all suffering? So I want to invite you to put this into practice. Begin to build confidence by literally checking and seeing for yourself how everything that unfolds is on the way to your fulfillment, your enlightenment, your liberation, and then also completely ignoring this line of time where you seem to be on the way, cutting right through it with the question of, if I'm already in the mind of God, and in the mind of God, is there this sense of lack? Is there unrest? Is there fear? Is there doubt in God? Oh, there isn't. So this must be an illusion. This must be a false perception, a way of seeing that is not in alignment with reality. That's why I don't feel that peace, love, and joy. Awesome. Thank you for revealing to me ever more truth, ever more of my own power to shift reality, to reveal reality, to reveal the reality of God effortlessly, uh, without any separate self-effort, because that's what already and always is here and now. So I trust this exploration and these two techniques have been helpful to you. They will avail you nothing unless you put them into practice. So I invite you now that as you turn off this video, take a moment to reflect, take a moment to see through the lens of perfection, and behold that your entire life is perfect, flawless. Everything that you've ever experienced belongs. And now, let's take a moment to go into the silence and receive this revelation.
In the stillness, I remember who I truly am, a reflection of the divine guided by his hand. Every breath I take, I'm living from the dream fulfilled. Everything I need, already here, already will. Oh, isn't it wonderful how they ease in the flow takes me higher, higher wherever I go. Mastery in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Everything I touch turns to gold.